Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special day. We are here for the UK Armed Forces ACC Championship. My name is Ben Sapsford. I will be one of your guides here today for an exciting 12-race season. We have much to cover and much to see on the track today. I'm going to be joined by a good friend over here at DriveLine, is Zabby. How are you doing, mate? How are you feeling about tonight's championship opener?
Absolutely, mate. Hello, everybody, and it's myself, Zavi, as you before you didn't introduce me. And yeah, it's actually amazing. I mean, 12-round season, really going into it. It is the Nurburgring GP layout, so really excited to see how it goes. 21 cars. I mean, I'm sure it must be so fun.
Yeah, so 21. Make that actually just, as you said that, we have 22 cars on the track. Now, we've got a very exciting calendar for you all to look forward to this season. Of course, this ACC Championship is between the three forces, and it's going to take you 12 rounds through the entire world. We start off tonight at the Nurburgring. The GP layout is going to play host to tonight's racing, and it's going to be a good one. We're going to go trackside in about 5 minutes for a qualifying session before a 60-minute race. But as well as that, we have 12 rounds ahead of us. And have you got any particular highlights, Abby, of the calendar? Have you had a chance to have a look at peruse through?
No, that's on me. I didn't really do it. Moreover, just about here. But the thing, actually, this one just for another race, I was on cast for a Nürburgring GP. So kind of a nice one. I had a look at the circuit the other week at nighttime, so it's definitely going to be a nice one to have a look at it in daytime and see the cars go around in the sunny afternoon.
It's going to be a good one. Well, we have 12 rounds, as we said. We start off tonight at the Nürburgring GP layout. Then we're going to be heading to Watkins Glen, Zolder, then Brands Hatch, and Misano to finish out May. Then we're going to be heading all the way to South Africa for Kyalami, the Hungaroring, Zandvoort, Silverstone, Spa, Francorchamps, and then finish off in July with Barcelona and Mount Panorama. So quite an eclectic calendar there, I gotta say, and one that I'm personally looking forward to seeing, just as we have a lot of different challenge in there. Now for me, I got to be honest, I am a big fan of Kyalami. I have a very sort of special place for it in my heart. I think it's a very unique track, one that doesn't always get all the time in the sun that I think it deserves. And I'm very, very excited to see who is going to come out on that track on top. So we are going to jump in a couple of minutes to the qualifying session. 25-minute quali, 60-minute race. And so we have got, I believe, everyone in now. I think they're just finalizing practice to get their setups fully locked in, but that is the full calendar. And with that now in mind, any changes, Zabby, or are you still sticking firm to Nürburgring GP?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as you said, Kyalami, I mean, I've heard a lot about it, mostly even real life drivers, you say that they love up Kyalami, so it'll be really exciting. I mean, others here and there we might have seen cars go around, but Kyalami is going to be a first timer for me to see as well, and I'm sure excited for it, as you said, because it's a nice track. I mean, I've actually had a chance to drive on it on the game as well, so it's definitely a nice one for sure.
Yeah, so we've got actually quite an eclectic car selection as well, and I know a lot of drivers are experimenting with custom liveries. So we are now going to be heading over to the track, and I think perfect timing as well. It's time to see what these racers can do. Let's go trackside. Let's see what they have in store. Is there going to be anyone going for that early jump? Not quite just. No, not quite yet. Doesn't look like anyone is going to be going right out the gate. We do have Mr. Dingo 200 over here. Now, worth noting as well, folks, this isn't just the tri-service. We also have, let's say, a few friends, a few affiliates as well who are joining us on the track here, and will be also bringing some interesting racing to us all. You can see he's going to be first out here.
Definitely Dingo first out on the track. Give us a little bit of an action in that McLaren 720S, I believe. It's a really great car. It's we don't see any livery on it, maybe not loading up yet, or they don't have one, but sure, it's a nice one to see. A first car out on track, and everybody else follows in many cars, as you can see in that minimap, following out on track as well.
Yeah, so he does have a livery. We just had a minor technical hiccup with the tool. Hasn't quite synced properly. Do apologize for that. We will be taking a sort of technical intermission to try and resolve that between qualifying and the race. But everyone on their outlaps right now. Most drivers are going to be jumping out here and seeing if they can get some room on the course. Oh, I mean, we say that. We do have a couple of custom cars that are loading fine. I believe just behind that is going to be the number 13. That's Craig Lewer. Looks like that is loading up just fine with a minimal issue. So it might be a hiccup on Dingo's end. Either way, we will have that technical pause just to ensure.
Yeah, really nice to see these cars get out. And many McLarens tonight, gotta say, so many of them, really. But everybody ready up now, and we see where the driver's getting started on a lap as well.
Okay, so we're going to be jumping on board. First one, Peter Davidson. He's going to be rocking the McLaren. It's a popular pick, like you said. I think a good chunk of the grid has gone for the McLaren. It's a good balanced car, as well as having some decent top-end speed. It's able to really push that car. So Royal Navy driver, and in the number 72, see how he does. Nicely done through the first couple of corners, and slowly sweeping his way down the course. So having to take a little bit of a more technical line through that first sector, now making his way down. Eventually he's going to get to the Dunlop curve and Schumacher S, see how he can carry that speed throughout the track. But looking very nice and well composed, as going to be the trendsetter so far in the session. So we've got Dingo a little bit further ahead. He's going to be our initial benchmark, as he'll be just making his way out past the Schumacher S, and then we'll be heading into the third sector. But let's jump on board with the McLaren quickly, get a real sense of speed, especially as we jump up the hill here, skipping across the curbs. Got to be very careful of that gravel and not taking too much curb. You will upset the suspension with the amount of camber that some parts of this track can hold.
Really, and he's just getting a little chunk of a straight before he gets to that right-hand curve and a few corners for that final turn, and he's really taking it through, as we saw from that front wing cam. The sense of speed, as you said, how fast they're going through, and a little bit of a snap could really be a problem for them. He so far is taking it smooth. We should be having our benchmark, not just yet, but let's see, where is Peter going to be putting it at as he just comes around the final corner now. He's only moments away from the finish line, and he goes fastest, of course. The benchmark is here for us, 156.007, and Wrench goes even faster.
So Wrench with a 55.7, he's going to sweep it, just make that little bit faster here. So certainly putting the gauntlet down, and so representing the RAF is going to be a big sweep and a big swing. Next up, we're going to have Story coming through in the Vantage and putting down a 56 flat. It's just 200ths of a second past Davidson. He's got George as well, who's just coming through and making his way down. This is going to be in the BMW, the M4. Also a good pick, another well-balanced car on the field. You've got Tyrone as well in the Bentley. Okay, this is a car you don't typically see trackside. Renowned for being a little bit of a boat, but if you can control that thing, you can get some amazing results, and he's certainly done so. Brilliant lap there. No particular sector best, but he's still put down some immense pace. Bailey, Vernon Higgs, another driver now making their way through. We've got a few more coming up to the line soon, as we've just had James King go into 5th place. Tyrone looks to be trying to one-up himself, go even faster on his best. 55.0 potentially projected if he can keep this pace up.
Yeah, really taking it through now, and as we said, everybody now just getting their laps in and burning through. We're seeing him get on his lap, just getting it through, having benchmarks on their screens now to see where they want to go faster, how fast they're going to go. A little bit of a snap on the exit there, not as smooth they would have wanted, but just taking it now again in that McLaren to go as fast as they could, as we see this amazing cockpit view as he's going to head into the right hander, just flat, a little bit right hand side on the curb, and taking it through and into the chicane now.
A little bit of yield, but holding it together quite nicely. Ellie's got a solid grip on that McLaren. Now final corner here. What's it going to be as he crosses the line? 58.7 was his last lap, but it wasn't a legal one. 55.8 instead is going to be the mark here. David Wrench come with a 55.1. Is Tyrone going to come through? Is there going to be a new record? Yes, there is. 54.5 dominates Sector 1 and 2 and having a nice sweep up to the line while he's at it. Zach Wilson coming in and now going to be starting their next lap here, as more drivers are going to go through. That's Luke Cleland. 57.547. Time is of the essence, despite 25-minute quali, and you think that's a lot, very quickly can get away from you. So already, almost 10 minutes in, the benchmark looks to be around the 155s if you want a solid top 10 time. Because these times are going to converge. They're going to come down, aren't they?
Yeah, they definitely will. Sure, everybody getting their laps, and as you said, time really tumbling down already. 7.5 minutes remaining, and we're a few minutes into the session. 25 minutes seems a lot, but definitely not a lot when many cars are out on track and drivers going as quick as they can. 157.5 from Luke, and he's still only 12 fastest. So we still have a few drivers to put a lap time on, but definitely you could be putting a time in or thinking that you've got a lot of time, but that doesn't mean that you will have. In that Porsche, we are seeing now Bradley Gibbs 156.670. We goes a little bit wide, might not be on a flying lap, but gets a little bit of a gravel there, unstables his car, but still smoothly so far. What about Mark then in P15? 158.5, so definitely 155.5. 155, as you said, is the benchmark time pretty much. Definitely 58 seems to be quite slow. So of course, different classes, pretty much a different type of cars, but sure, as we see Tyron in that Bentley, as you said, really not the car that you usually see, but really setting purple sectors in that purple car.
Well, we're certainly seeing some diverse grid picks. We saw the Bentley earlier, like you mentioned. We've got the Lexus here from Gladwell, so he's certainly got a chance to really prove it. Now, I haven't seen much wheel time in the Lexus. I'm not too familiar with that car. I know the more common picks, so McLaren, BMW, the Ferrari 296, although I haven't tuned in too many people who have got it, despite its potency and particularly its ability to weave its way around corners. It hasn't quite been as popular here. People have much rather gone in favour. Ooh, a little bit of a risky sweep there. There's James King barely keeping it within track limits as we go across that chicane. Will it still be enough? I think he's about half a second down. In fact, let's get those live deltas up on the screen for us here. You can see a bit more clarity now that we've had 10 minutes in. Deltas are now stable and running. So, unfortunately, a little bit adrift of the time that he needed. So there's Craig Lewer. Currently starting a lap, or just coming up to the end of the first sector.
Into it, currently 18th place, 159.4. Definitely needs good improvement in all three sectors. So he's got a time to do now. Craig Liver really taking it through on that right hand side now. Really a little bit on the curb still. Taking it smooth though. We saw the other driver earlier going a little bit of a drift and ruining their lap. Sure, he knows it that he doesn't want to ruin it. Taking it through far away from the apex there on this corner specific. And we have again the left-hander now. That could be a tricky one to take, but that is almost as smooth as it gets around here for him. He's really going through there, and we are really going to see how quick he's going to be able to put his times on. He's currently 0.8 up on his time if the deltas are live, and he's really putting in on his way to really get an improved time and a better lap than the previous one.
Currently stands about a second up on his previous, so there is a 58 on the cards. That could slingshot him up into potentially P16 Any more time he gains could be a little bit further. The question is how he's going to handle the chicane. This is a big make or break for a lot of laps, and you can see he's got another car breathing down his neck. That's going to be the number 30 of Ryan Worley coming through the final corner here, and actually going to go to the inside. We're not even racing yet, gentlemen. We're already going side by side and giving each other a run for the money. 57.4 is the 13th position, and Worley has got a time on the board. Slua is going to get a 20. Oh, my mistake there. It's going to be a 59.252, slight misread, and is going to return to the pits. And this is that middle phase of qualifying where you now have a lot of drivers who have put some times down, but they're not going to stay fully committed to runs when they can get more time. They're going to return to the garage. They're going to go out again, but we will see a couple of local yellows pop up around the circuit in these next 10 minutes especially.
Yeah, definitely. For now, as you said, the middle part, really, drivers heading into the pits, getting there, done with their first runs, and really now into the pits again. Rest a little, maybe prepare, analyze what they got to do better. As we have Zach Wilson on a lap, currently 157.6, quite not the time he wants. P15. I mean, he's in that Aston Martin, trying to get as quick as he can, and definitely those drivers, as you said, the local yellows would be a thing as well, as drivers would be really wanting to get out of one or the others out of their way, because you do not want that. Traffic is one thing the drivers hate, and if you really are not able to get out of the car behind, out of the way, it could be big issues for the car ahead, but then for you as well, because penalties are or could be coming out your way if you fail to do so. As we are seeing the Aston Martin now into the chicane, they had the chicane that many drivers have had problems with, but he takes it as smooth as he can. He's going to be improving by quite a lot of a time, but is he going to convert on a full lap though? 157.677 is his previous lap time. How fast does he go across that finish line? That is an improvement we call. He goes P10 with a time of 156.580. A little bit of a not improved in that first sector, but still the final two do the job for him.
Quality run there, and certainly making up a lot of time. Top 10, nothing to scoff at, especially in this company where you've got drivers frequently pushing into the 55s, if not 54s. We've got three of them doing exactly that. Bailey, Vernon Higgs, James King, and Tyrone all in the 54s with a 0.9, 0.7, and 0.5 respectively. Certainly time for the others to join them, but it's going to be a tough call. Now, a few drivers are now in the pits, but are going to be returning out as there is 10 minutes left. This is going to net you about 4, maybe 5 at a squeeze good runs, provided you can get across that finish line before the flag falls.
Absolutely. I mean, for the ones who are behind, really trying to get on times and get better on with their times. But as we said, the top three in the 154s, are we going to see any 153s maybe in the end track evolution, getting cars to be doing more and more lap times, better lap time than they previously? Or this 154 is, you think we're going to be there, just not any better than that?
I don't know. It's going to be a tough call. I think we will certainly see a low 54 coming out. We've got some immediate strong runners here in quali that are proving themselves to be quite the tour de force. Though I'm not going to hold my breath for anyone jumping at least significantly into the threes. I mean, we could look at likes of Tyrone, for instance. He's been a frequent push in the pace department, and he's currently running about equal to his delta. He's gaining a couple of tenths here and there, but he's teetering on that edge, and that's when you know that for the most part drivers are really at the limit. In fact, he just invalidated there, unfortunately, just a little bit too wide at the end of the sector.
Really pushing there as he goes wide again. We saw into that left-hander he was. Meanwhile, we see Peter Davidson in P8 so far on another lap into the chicane and hits the bollard there almost. I wonder if that was invalidated or it's still valid for him.
Still clean.
On it. It is clean for him. He's going to go, but we'll see has he got an improvement or not, because we definitely saw he unstable his car over there on the chicane, but does not improve. And that is 156.6. Doesn't see him go any better than P8.
Yeah, that's the rough thing. It's that chicane, like we were saying earlier, it is a make or break corner. And you've got to be so careful. Even just a little bit too much curb, you can risk scraping the under tray, which isn't a problem in it itself, but the problem comes when you try to get that car back on terra firma. You try to get that platform stable again, and you struggle. Your tires will skip. You might even grain them a little bit trying to regrip, and that's when the problems start. So that chicane is certainly going to be a point of issue for many drivers' runs. We're on board with Jack Lemon. We'll see what he can do here. Coming up to the chicane at issue. Speak and it shall appear. Jumping on those brakes just before the 50-meter board. Cruising through about 150 kilometers. Nicely done. See, that's a good chicane right there. Just hold your line. Don't take too much curb. You can take it on two wheels if you're feeling risky, but you want to play it safe for the most part. But 56.2, that's going to push him up into P9, and that's going to push Zach Wilson out of the top 10.
Yeah, really. I mean, chicane is always a make or break it thing. You know, if you get it right, you really get it perfect, and you gain a lot of time there. But if you get it wrong, the whole lap is ruined, and even a little bit of snap of over or understeer there really makes it bad for you. What about Vernon then? We're going to see him come around there as he is going to break downshift into fourth, third, and try and take this smooth. He's away from the curbs, though, on the exit there. How about this one? Into second gear, about 100 kilometers an hour. How quick is he going to go? Back on power now on the exit of the corner and across that line. 154.8. That is going to put him in a big improvement inside the top 3.
Nicely done for Bailey. A 54.8, so minor improvement. Nothing to write home about massively, but still an extremely solid run and puts him closer to the likes of King and Tyrone. So we'll see if anyone can match that energy as we head through. Alex Rum now coming out of the curve at the bottom of the circuit. That's Dunlop. Now into Schumacher S. Key thing is going to be just holding your line. And he's actually coming up to a little bit of traffic here. I do believe that is going to be another driver who is on an outlap. So there you go. You see the blue flags being called. And that is good sportsmanship right there. That is Jack Lemon, number 91.
Getting out of the way. Meanwhile, number 52, Alex Rum, on his way in 18th place. He needs a time. He needs a time out of everybody on track so far. Sure, drivers, there are some right behind him, but he needs a good one. What about the chicane once again? And he goes a little bit wide there, just close to that bollard, but into the final corner now. Some drivers we see staying away from the curb, still getting a very good time. But what about Alex then? Has he got it all what he needs in 18th place now? But across that line is going to put him an improvement, but still in 18th place. 158.0, but not enough to push him up the order on track. Only on 18th, stays where he was.
Here we are, 6 minutes left on the clock, and last couple of runs coming in. Noticing a lot of drivers are staying in the pit, and out of the 22 drivers we have on the course today, we have a whopping 12 of them currently sat in the pit lane, although Craig Fitton has, by the looks of things, just come out, or at least one other driver has come out of the pit. So we may see that change. Maybe they're just preparing for those final shots and those final runs here with the time rapidly coming down. Nobody on a major improvement, but a lot of drivers are on that setup. And with the rubber laid down, I think we could start to see times start to converge across the board.
Definitely, we surely will see, because definitely a lot of you, say, as you said, in the pits, definitely just preparing and maybe not having many sets of tires, so just having and saving that final set for those final runs. As we have 5 minutes now remaining, they're all going to be out in a few moments time now, out on track, really putting those final laps, and it really will be chaotic, and I'm sure it'll be very close to the finish, to the end. Really, you want to be one of the final cars to be coming across that finish line to complete a lap, to have the best chance at a faster time as the grips gets there, and it only gets better and better as cars run over the track and the rubber is laid on. So you definitely want to be on one of those final cars putting in a lap in, but you want to make sure, though, because if you could, many people are going to try and do that. If you run in traffic, that could be a problem. Meanwhile, we're seeing two McLarens, one head of another. Meanwhile, George right behind that purple McLaren purple, not really getting out of the way, maybe both on those outlaps, but struggling really. Not purple, that McLaren not really getting out of the way at all.
Yeah, going to see a bit of a challenge between these two. Now, we've got George here. Pausland is currently on a run, but so is Wrench. Now, Wrench is about a second down on his delta, so he might want to reconsider running so aggressive rather than trying to peel alongside the number 66 that we're on board with right now. And I've got to say, points for everyone who is running custom liveries. And so we will take that technical pause, but we've seen a couple of them come through, and we do very much like it. So, to the services that are running, all the civvies that are running, keep it up. More custom liveries. We want to see them. We want to see the creative designs and have a bit of fun with this as the season goes on. Either way, Pausland's coming up to line, 0.4 of a second down or up slash on his delta. We'll see, this could bring him into the 57s. Up to the line, keeps it clean, 58.060. So just outside, unfortunately not fast enough to get past Alex Rum, but now he's going to, I think, yield back a bit. Although is somewhat compromising the run of David Wrench. He's not able to get the ideal line through the first corner.
Definitely David Wrench really he stayed behind that McLaren of we saw, and definitely not really pushing it, of course, on an out lap. So now just starting his lap going through, going to try and do as much as he can, really get better on his time from P4, and he will be one of those drivers inside the top. As we see, he's down on his time on the delta as it stands, 2/10 down, but can he improve though? Surely, or compromise that turn one, but that doesn't mean though he might be a little bit down in that first sector, but the final two are going to be his time and his chance to get through. Still down on his time, not able to improve, not really finding enough any more time than he's got already. So are we really going to see improvements from these drivers, or were they already on the limit, or is just Wrench on the limit to not able to go any faster? But I'm sure when he is starting his lap without a car ahead of him would be a better idea we'll be able to get if he's going to improve or not. And definitely these final few corners are going to be a good chance as well. What about Craig then? Craig Fitton in P21. 2:08 seems to be his time so far in that Nissan GTR. How good is he going to be able to go as well? What about as he's just going to be making his way around the chicane now into the left and right hander, as the chicane has been very tricky and has been the corner for most drivers. Either you make it or break it. He takes it very smooth. That seemed like he was going very slow around there, really, and not pushing through that chicane. But we'll see. Is he going to find any improvement? He's finding over 1.7 seconds on his delta time, that's for sure. But where is that going to put him? Will it be enough for him to be going up positions? Not much at all. He does improve by a lot though, 2:01 from 2:08, over 7 seconds, but only still good in P21, not improving at all.
Yeah, so previous was a 2:08 flagged, best was a 2:02, brings that down to a 2:01, but unfortunately not enough to gain any positions. Lost almost 60 seconds coming in hot now, and we have got a few key standouts as the session is almost drawn to a close. Tyrone in the Bentley currently stands tall, 1:54.580, and is the time to beat heading into this next race and heading into the inaugural round of the season. James King is going to be a strong second right now, with Bailey Vernon Higgs on the track looking to set himself up for a final run. 40 seconds left on the clock, and alongside Tyrone, they're going to be trying to time this perfectly to get a final shot out on the field. David Wrench is going to head into the pits, and that is going to conclude his campaign. Best he's going to get is fourth, and Glyn Berry is also going to be out there. It's a rare Mercedes AMG. Nice to see, again, another different car making an appearance out on the course. Many different car choices here.
Definitely many of them, and that Mercedes AMG, we didn't see much of him throughout qualifying, but we find him in the top 5. He's really got the ground to make. We'll see if he's able to go any better. That felt like a little bit of a slide on the exit, but I'm sure if it was or not, we'll get to know as he comes across that line to see if he's going to improve or not on his previous time. As it stands, he is not improving, so maybe that was a slide, or he's just not finding enough time to get any better than his previous one.
So we've got Jack Lemon coming up to the chicane now, 3/10 up. This could put him into the single digits. It's all about how he handles the chicane. Nicely done, well composed, well controlled. through the final corner. Careful to power out a bit too early, as you can land yourself with a bit too much curb, but again, very well handled. Up to the line it is to P9 and a 55.8, but is anyone going to challenge that? We've got Peter Davidson just coming out of the chicane too, coming through the final. He did get a little bit out of kilter and will currently stand to gain a 10th. Not enough for the position on Ethan Lee, but still a solid improvement nonetheless. Ryan Worley was on a run too, but has lost time through the chicane and into the final corners. So 56.1 is going to be his best. Last couple of cars now making their way through. This is going to be Lost Racer on field and in the 488. So another one there, and there's going to be an Abandon coming in from the Ferrari. And there we go. Our final order. Let's see them in full. So Tyrone is going to be with a 54.5. And then a 0.7 is going to go to James King. Bailey Vernon Higgs is going to be in third. And those are your top three for the field here in qualifying. Now, we are going to quickly go to the start screen once again. We're going to take a short technical pause and make sure that we are set with the liveries. We're going to try and set the reset the livery client. In fact, we'll try and do that here in the background. It should push. Just going to make sure we are synced up. We'll be right back with you folks just as the session gets underway. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Now, we are going trackside once more. Just relaunched. Hopefully, those couple of cars we saw earlier that had an issue with their livery are now resolved. And we're going to see, hopefully, everyone's paints being on full display. And looks like there we are. There is Dingo's livery. So we can confirm has now been fixed. And I'm glad for it too. What a nice paint. Beautiful looking. Love the colours. Love the style. Top marks. Full points.
Yeah, really matching up both the colours and making it a standpoint. Looking at it, you must say, wow.
This is what we love. Keep them coming, of course, folks. Keep them coming. Trackside. Now, great performance out here. We're going to take a bit of a grid walk now. I think we're going to see everyone in full and get a full display of who is out on that course. First things first is going to be Tyrone in the number 69 Bentley, looking very sharp in the pink. Then we will be having James King leading off. So we'll take a few moments here as everyone is getting themselves set up. Say Vernon Higgs in third. Then we will have David Wrench just next to in fourth, completing that second row. Looks like we are, rather than formation lap, we're going to be jumping straight in. So we're going to be taking a bit of a moment off. And we are going to be going to the front. Now we'll get our chance to really get every driver's time in the sun as we go through. But the track is hot. And we have an hour of racing ahead of us. Let's get this going and let's have some fun. Tyrone with a great start. James King just going to be tucking in behind immediately. You're going to be double wide. That's Glenbury and Ethan Lee. We've got a couple of contacts being made further down the order. We can see a couple of cars going quite wide. I think that was the Vantage heading up. Oh, that's sideways. That is sideways for one of the Porsches, I believe. Alex Rum is going to be right down to the bottom of the order. And there's a couple of casualties amidst all of the chaos. As Gibbs, who did get rotated sideways, managed to regain his composure into 15th. Now, a couple of cars trying to recover swiftly following some early scuffles. Ethan Lee is going to be on the side of Glenberry. Meanwhile, in the number 87 is going to try and get past as soon as he can. Crucially, This is the chance for everyone to get an early lead and start to find some space on the track, just like Tyrone and King have already done. Bailey is going to be close behind, but lots of different cars converging on each other fast.
Really, really fast as going to turn one as well. So many cars going to turn one. I think as many as there were cars, it was quite a smooth. Sure, it wasn't smooth. We had some cars spinning, and definitely that Mercedes AMG Burry we saw. He had a very good dive from I saw from. I kept an eye on him. He went on the inside line to gain as much as he could. What about Story then win P6 now, just ahead of Lehman and behind Burry in that AMG. Really gonna try and get ahead. Almost braked a little bit later than did the Mercedes, but will we see any attack from Story? What about Mark then in the Lexus in P19 and right behind or right ahead of Liver then in P20? All these bottom grid drivers going and attacking each other as well, really trying all they can. And are we going to see any move at the back? We saw a little bit of a car at the back. That is Alex Rum, I believe, at the back trying to make a move. Not quite positive. Oh, and that's going to be Crash, and that is going to be George Powersland. He's going to be in the wall and in the barriers. He's going to try and come back and recover back out onto the track, but it seems like he's lost it on his own.
Yes, they lost the car, just couldn't keep the composure through the chicane. We might get a chance later to replay that and see it in full, but squabbles continue at the back. Contact made. That's Roman Lua, as he's going to be fighting his way, figuratively and literally, past into P19. A couple of squabbles further down as well. Bradley Gibbs is now moving his way up. He's in P13, and then looking to the top, you've got Bailey, who's kept close proximity to James King. Could be going for a P2 here. We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, possible chance for him. Bailey Vernon on his way right behind King now, maybe trying to attack that car ahead of him. He could be doing that any moment. Just very early into the race, maybe he thinks to stay behind, but I'm sure if he thinks that he's got the pace and speed to go for it, we might see him be making that move. Meanwhile, Taron seems to be pulling away a little bit from the other two, but they aren't far away, but these two are in their own fight, and maybe King now feeling a little bit of a pressure from Bailey, and we could, if there is just a bit of a mistake from Bailey, from the car ahead of King, and could be a chance for Bailey to get through, but then Bailey has to make sure as well that he doesn't make a mistake. He needs to be staying concentrated to not make a move. And let's have a look at this. Dingo now in P12 in that McLaren, just right behind Worley. Oh, he goes very wide. Meanwhile, look at that. Gibbs making progress, still in P13, but after a huge spin, seems to be stabilizing now, and on his way. Right behind him is Davidson, but they're going to be side by side. Who's going to be late on the brakes into the chicane? Will it be Gibbs or will it be Davidson? Around the outside, it is going to be Davidson. He really showed some bravery there, and Gibbs moved out of the way quite early there.
Here's a tough fought battle here. So Dingo did show signs of maybe being rattled under pressure, but doesn't seem to show any signs of yields. Davidson is on a charge, though. He's made it past Gibbs, and he's now going to go for the same again into turn one. He's going to lay his command and lay his intentions bare, although looks like a bit of a dive bomb. That's going to be Luke Cleland, and now that's going to result in disaster. That's completely put Dingo out of the order, and he's going to be receding himself down. And just in the tail end of that, we see Alex Rum once again off the course, and in a cruel twist of fate, that is going to be his second off, having made contact with another car.
Yeah, really big context already. We saw the cars battling out on track, but into turn one, nobody backing out at all, really making contact, and now pushing all of those wide. Gibbs, after making progress and doing a good recovery, is back to the bottom positions again, and on the inside line is George going to be able to go through on Lehman there. They're going to be side by side into the chicane. They'll go. Who will be brave? They're not at the chicane, actually. They're far away from there, but still, wheel to wheel, side by side they are, and that is going to be a brave one as Lehman still stays ahead and George just behind in that BMW, and they are all together. Meanwhile, right behind is Wrench. He's on the inside line. He could have a move as well. This still just finds enough, does George, to stay ahead of Wrench there, but meanwhile Wrench, he has a little bit of a moment and he's almost going to go wide. In fact, he does go wide, and he's going to be losing a bit of time from that BMW. But what about George now? Is he going to do something into the left-hander? And the chicane is going to be a very early break from Lehman there. That's going to allow George to get closer, but into the final corner they go. Are we going to see any battle between the two into turn one, though? Around the main straight they are. Still right behind it is George. Jake Lehman's in 6th place. Going to try and defend his position. No more signs of an overtake from George so far. Meanwhile, look at this battle. James King and Vernon are fighting each other off as James is into 3rd place and Vernon is through into P2.
There's a quick sweep there from Bailey as he's going to make good work on his position. We'll see. We'll get a bit of a replay now as we jump on board. So this is the fight between the two. This is a bit of a rewind in time. You can see James goes to the outside. Bailey lays his claim to the apex of the corner and now is going to sweep his way through, being able to, while going for the move, simultaneously block off the chance for James to get a switchback. So nicely done there and well attacked from Vernon Higgs. He's got a good command of the circuit and now he currently stands in P2. Looks to stay that way. Wrench, meanwhile, has had a bit of a recovery and he's currently sat in P8 looking at the rear lights of that BMW M4. The back has calmed down also. The pit window is officially open, so we'll be open for the next 47 minutes or until about 5 minutes before race close. And Connor Palmer has already gone in for a stop, likely due to some of the incidents sustained earlier.
Yeah, really trying to get damage recovery as well. We look at Ranch. He falls very short of the BMW earlier on, but he's made the recovery. But what about Story then? He's going to try and get closer to that Bury. Meanwhile, Bury has gotten ahead of this car, but the Aston Martin. But sure, Bury just maintaining P4 so far. And as it stands, the Aston Martin right behind the BMW, oh, sorry, the Mercedes, but just not able to attack or get any closer for an overtake, though. Will we see anything into turn one? I think the Aston Martin is not close enough to be making that move, but we've seen some dive bombs early on. Let's see if we are going to see any from Story there in P4. Not this time around, though. He seems to be managing that. We saw Bury having a few moments. And what about Ranch now? And Ranch into turn one. Finally a chance for him. Is he going to be able to make it, though? Will be a chance for BMW to defend, and he's going to be able to do just that. He just defends that inside line. Ahead, he may have left that door open. He could have been through again for a moment. The Ranch thought for it, but he couldn't quite go for it. But this time around, they're going to be side by side. Again, just enough does George to defend that. And Ranch is now on the back of that BMW. It's going to give him a very hard time. And to defend, to do not have any pressure, though, it's going to be pure pressure for the BMW ahead and for the McLaren to make that move round the outside. He's going to send it in there. Is he going to be having the inside line into the next corner? Coming up ahead, though. It's a long way back still. Just enough for the BMW, but the McLaren's going to be sending it on the inside line. Very close between the two. Who's it going to be coming at the top? Meanwhile, they make contact as well, but just about David Wrench is going to be through into P7 and a position gained between the two, and it is David Wrench on top of the BMW now.
Here we go. Now we've got a bit of a fight that has come and gone. We've got, meanwhile, a bit of a technical hiccup by the looks of things. It looks like we have lost Story, although is going to be jumping up and down the grid. Yeah, looks like we just lost him on the timing, and the leaderboard is, well, the timing board is going absolutely wild. It's having a bit of a moment. Let's put it that way. Let's put it diplomatically here. But we also have a bit of a shake-up. Looks like the session has had a major issue. The server has had a technical difficulty, folks. So we're going to see exactly what's happening. We're going to quickly cut over back to ourselves here for just a moment. Hopefully we'll get a bit more news as to what is happening with the server. But we have lost connection, so we can't confirm exactly what's happened. We are going to try and rejoin now, see what's going on here. But very exciting up until this point. We had a lot of fights up and down. I'm going to see if there is anything we can do to restore server connection and go from there.
Absolutely. I mean, amazing racing between drivers. We saw some dive bombs as well, but really exciting action, especially at the end there between David Wrench and that BMW, really giving it all. Nobody backing out at all. They were going to till the last moment to get it through on one another, and definitely some amazing action as we are back again.
Yep, looks like we're back now. So, apologies for that minor hiccup, folks. Not quite sure exactly what happened. We lost connection to the server kind of out of the blue, but we are back now. And in good time, too. We catch on to Bradley Gibbs on the back of Mark Gladwell, and he's trying to find any chance he can get to go alongside. That Lexus proving to be a bit of a roadblock now through the Dunlop curve, and a little bit of a shaky rear end coming from the Porsche. Not really what you'd expect. This is a bit of a issue with the Porsche, so drivers will throw it into corners. They can take a bit of slip angle, but sometimes we'll kind of get scared off by that. You can afford, with a setup that is befitting of it, to take a little bit of slip angle. A bit too much on the outside there for Gibbs, but we'll see how he's able to wrangle that Porsche. It's a unique beast.
It sure is. I mean, we saw, as you said, the car really, that rear end, not that much stable. So sometimes even drivers, you know, the car just loses out a little. And as a driver in that cockpit, you then just get double-minded and lose it on your own as well. So that definitely speaks to itself that you have to be very careful. And but the Porsche almost going through on the Lexus. And there he's going to be through into the final corner on the inside line. They're going to be wheel to wheel, though. It's going to be close enough into turn one. But will the Porsche be through on that Gladwell already before they get into turn one, though? But no, the Lexus is going to try and be late on the brakes, though, round the outside, but it is going to be the inside line to the Porsche round the outside. The Lexus is going to try and get as much grip as he can, but it won't be enough, and Bradley Gibbs is going to be through into 13th place and a position gained just right behind Cleland now, and into 13th. The Porsche really making progress already.
Yeah, it's a good work there from Gibbs, and I got to hand it to Gibbs. He's really taken a bad situation at the start of the race, and he's fully flipped it in his favour. He's not let that early shenanigans get him down, and he's currently surging his way into P12. He's fighting alongside, however, with Luke Cleland. They are going to be having a bit of a squabble as we head into Sector 2 now. Good movement there for Gibbs, holds his line and keeps consistent. Now, when you're racing side by side with a driver like this, you do not want to be trying to throw them off guard too much, because if there's one thing that's more dangerous than a slow driver, it's an unpredictable one. Having yourself thrown side to side without real cause or rhyme or reason is going to end in tears, and both these drivers showing each other the appropriate on-track respect.
Yeah, they're really doing an awesome action, and definitely Bradley gaining another position. We saw him get ahead of Gladwell, then Cleland as well. Into 12th comes Bradley Gibbs now. He's got Wilson quite a few seconds ahead of him on track, but he's going to maybe try and recover back. But it's a good chance for others to catch up back again. Or are we going to see Gibbs really have the speed and show how good him and that Porsche is to catch up back to Wilson in P11. So he's got the ground to make, and he's definitely got free air ahead of him for a few laps before he could catch up to the car ahead. So he's got some good speeds to show if he really has got the speed. Or are we going to see the drivers behind attack back on him? But definitely Bradley Gibbs really after that incident recovering super well. What about George then in P7? We saw him lose that position to Wrench, and now he's right behind Lehman as well. Jack Lehman has gained the position on George PL as well. George really not having the speed or the race that he would want. Sure, he's still close to those guys, and Jack Lehman is very close to Jack Lehman, though. They're almost going to be side by side, but just enough will have Jack to get ahead or stay ahead of the BMW of George. George still out there right behind Lehman now. They're still going to be there. George has got a chance, but can he do that, though? Is Jack Lehman going to be enough? He's going to have enough to defend, though. Main overtaking zone is into turn one, which we are going to see, but they're just heading over into the chicane just behind the car of Jack Lehman is going to be the BMW of George. He's just going to stay there, though. But now they have got this straight before they could get into the chicane and that final corner, though. But they've got the chance to do. Is Jack Lehman going to be able to take the chicane smooth? Will there be a chance for him, though? He takes it smooth there. Both of them pushing quite crazy around here. But will there be a chance? Who's going to be going smooth into the final corner there, and runs wide a little, does Jack, but he's going to come back at him to back to the racing line to defend against the BMW of George. But will Jack have enough to defend, or the BMW is going to do enough to overtake? He's going to go on the inside line to defend, as George is going to be on the outside. Who is it going to be on top, though? Is it going to be the BMW able to do a switch back there? He's just not going to have enough speed and traction to get through, but they're still going, and the battle hasn't stopped yet. There again, Jack Lehman is ahead of the BMW in that Ferrari, but still not away is the BMW of George, and they're already again fighting each other off, and definitely this is the battle to look for all race long.
Yeah, solid battle between these two right now, and they've got a real good handle on each other. Notice how they are almost ducking and weaving to each other. They're trying to gauge who's going to go where, who's going to respond to different situations on the course, and they're trying to almost read each other's movements. They're not going too aggressive. They're not trying to jump before it's time. They're taking their moments, they're taking their time, they're trying to understand how the other driver is going to react, and then that's when they can place themselves. I mean, we look right now with George, he's tucking out of the slipstream just enough to keep that car in a good position, keep the aero on while balancing the cooling, the grip, but then really tucks in to try and set himself up for an attack, particularly into turn one. That's going to be your main overtaking zone, and that's where we've seen a lot of fights time and again. Now into the chicane, it's going to be a little bit of a chase here, but you see George letting off a little bit earlier, not wanting to risk incident. Going into the chicane with another car is generally very dangerous business, but he knows that he can get him on the exit of the final corner. A little bit of a wider run from Jack is going to see slightly better exit speeds, and this could be where he grabs him.
Yes, it really could be. And another chance for George there on Jack Lehman. We saw earlier on George going on the inside line again. As you said, the main overtaking zone into turn one will be, but this time just not close enough was George there, just staying a little bit behind the Ferrari of Jack. And right behind them is Worley in P8, maybe arriving at the scene as well. This could, well, very soon turn a three-way fight from a two-way fight, though. But we'll see how good can these two. They have been racing brilliantly against each other, but it'll be interesting to see when that third driver comes in and pulls in between these two. Could be a chance as well. And now looking at some drivers outside the top 10, it is Zach Wilson in P11, just right behind Davidson, who's ahead in that McLaren, I believe. They're just making their way through now into this amazing left-hander. They're almost smooth and really pushing all they can, and a little bit running wide is Wilson there, almost trying to stay away from the rear of the Davidson's car and not going into the back of him. Meanwhile, between Farrier and Davidson could be a nice battle going up ahead as well. They seem to be pretty close to each other.
Is really holding his line. Davidson doesn't actually have to defend here. You notice he didn't actually take any defensive actions. He's very focused on Farrier just up ahead, but more importantly, he knows that Wilson is currently overdriving the car. He's going too deep into corners. He's trying to extract more speed than is necessarily available, and that's where the mistakes are creeping in. Why he's currently 1.5 seconds ahead, even if not forever, is because he's not acting rashly. And Davidson is so far just focused on keeping in the slipstream of Farrier, tucking out when needs be, but not making any kind of rash decisions before the time is right.
Absolutely, really taking it smooth. I mean, we've still got over 40 seconds remaining in this race. Will there be a chance for George this time around again? Because they get really close, but just not enough for George there. We've seen these two side by side for quite a while and almost making an overtake once again, George, but just not enough. And notice how he's not overdoing it. He's not really going for it every time, or he's just staying patient with it. He knows still a lot remaining in this race, and probably we will get his chance to overtake. So just staying behind, because we have seen some dive bombs in turn 1 or any other corners haven't quite ended well. So definitely taking it just with patience, and maybe when we are in only a few minutes to the end of this race, 10 to 15, then we could see these drivers really give it everything. Sure, they are still pushing, but maybe just a little bit of it staying behind, and just that little patience which is stopping.
Well, patience is a virtue, and one thing we're seeing here is that drivers are judging the risk versus the reward of going for these kind of moves. We see Ryan Worley now heading into the pits. He's going to be going in for a stop. Alex Rum and George Powsland have already gone in earlier, as has Dingo. In fact, he's going in for another one here, so curious as to what his game plan is going to be. But drivers are weighing up the risk versus the reward. Now, you could argue that if there is a gap, you should go for it. Now, something about a quote from a famous racing driver or something. But not all gaps are meant to be filled by racing cars. Sometimes you got to leave the space, even if just for self-preservation. You put yourself in a bad spot. Yes, you're technically ahead, but you're just going to get switched back on immediately on the next corner.
It definitely will, as you refer to that quote, and it was from Ayrton Senna. If you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. So it really is that case. But we definitely see that not everybody agrees with that. And as you said, if there is a gap, that doesn't mean you have to go for it. So really doing that. Meanwhile, we're seeing a little bit of a battle ahead, I believe. Yes, it is between between the Ferrari and the Mercedes. Meanwhile, Ranch is going to be going on the inside as well. And I believe that Ferrari has went pretty wide and lost out positions. Again, not one, but two to Burry and then to David Ranch as well.
So that was a back marker there. That's going to be Connor Palmer in the number 73. So he's actually yielding off and going through the blue flag. So respecting that their fight is much further ahead. He doesn't want to get involved in that. And instead, he is going to make sure that he preserves his own space on the course. Luke Cleland is also heading into the pits at the same time, as we do have a bit of a squabble. This is between Farrier and Davidson, who has now managed to get past. Looks like Farrier made a mistake. And this is also going to open the door for Zach Wilson as we head into Sector 2. Little bit of the dirt getting picked up on the outside tyres. This is going to give a chance at least to get the nose in for the Vantage. A little bit of squirreliness coming on the throttle as we head down into the Dunlop curve. A couple of tenths behind as we come out and into the bottom of the track. Now Wilson is trying to keep his composure. He's trying to keep it all together, but he's got a little bit of work to do, especially as things currently are standing, and this is the fight to get into and stay in the top 10, because don't forget either, Wilson is here, but time could quickly change things up. Gibbs is 10.5 seconds away, but we might see that time be made up quite rapidly, although looks like Wilson has had a bit of an issue. He suddenly dropped about 3 seconds of time.
Definitely might have had. We see a lot of drivers making mistakes going wide, so it could have been one of those. And Gibbs, we've seen do a very decent job as well on the road to recovery. But what about David into turn 1 on that Mercedes of Burry? Then on the inside line, through goes David Wrench into P4. A nice overtake. It wasn't like he descended way too aggressive. It was just a normal side-by-side action, and just on the exit finds enough grip and traction to get out ahead of that Mercedes and into P4 now.
Nicely done there for Wrench. So take his time, picked his move, and these two were running close for about 3 or 4 laps. So you know that this wasn't a quick decision being made so much as it was a carefully executed and strategized overtake. So well done to the both of them, and well done for racing hard but fair. We've got George and Lemon now coming up to the back marker. This is going to be Connor Palmer once again, and this is an interesting dynamic you're going to see as the race progresses. The back marker, of course, has to yield when it is safe to do so. We actually see contact between Lemon and George, so not quite going to be in the way that he envisioned getting the overtake, but he's going to get it nonetheless. So Connor Palmer is going to be yielding off and yielding the space, but not before A bit of an issue strikes as Lemon, we just saw in the background, but he's lost the car. I'm not sure whether that was via any other contact or what happens there. We're going to quickly check in here. So this is a live replay, and this is going to be from Lemon's perspective. So he makes that contact, of course, initially with George. We now come through the chicane here. Going to switch cameras just a little bit. I think a little bit of lift off oversteer. No contact made, but just losing the back of the car, unfortunately.
Yeah, just lost it on his own, really, in that pressure that maybe sometimes kicks in, or the tires not giving enough rear grip and just losing out the rear and spinning out. And definitely one thing George has got is some not only free air, but some pressure free as well. He must have been in all race long pressure and that little excitement as well for him to overtake and stay ahead of Jack Lehman, but he might have just got some space to breathe and really relax a little. Of course, you're never relaxed when you're racing around, but just must be nice to see for him to nobody around him. And what about Craig then? Craig Lever in 13th place, having a moment as well. Another driver into the grass and off the track.
I think we saw a bit of a similar situation here. It's just a lift off oversteers, no other cars around him. I think he's just lost the car, trying to adjust his speed, and the weight transfer, I think, really did kick his car around there.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we are having a look at Matt Farrier in that BMW, I believe, right ahead of Gibbs as it stands, and behind Jack Lehman. Jack Lehman has fallen into 7th place, and he goes a little bit wide again, but still just staying ahead and keeping his car stable to stay ahead and not lose time. Just trying to get as much recovery as he can now again after that little mistake. Just get on. Still got about 33 minutes in this race remaining, so quite a while remaining still.
Still got plenty of time, but at the same instance, we're over halfway, or coming up into halfway of the distance here. So Farrier is going to be within half a second of Lemon, and is going to be where our eyes are mostly trained for the time being. We've also got a couple of instances of an issue here. That's going to be Connor Palmer, so going off the track. Not sure if by intention to let the other cars go, or whether there was a mistake involved. Farrier still onto the back of Lemon and potentially teeing up a move. He is going to go very aggressive there and certainly make a statement to his opponent up there in the number 91. We've got a couple of opportunities here, but he's going to be under pressure all of a sudden. There's the number 63 car. That's Ethan Lee. Remember, lap down is going to be posing an obstacle.
Really will be an obstacle to him to not let him get past and just stay ahead. Meanwhile, we're going to see Farrier in P8. There is a car ahead of him. I wonder if that's a lapped car or something, as we see Jack Lehman ahead of him, but that car is a little bit further up the track. Meanwhile, the back marker really being that obstacle, as you said, not really letting Matt Farrier get ahead or get any closer to Jack Lehman, and just staying behind. And they've in fact got similar manufacturer cars, BMWs, but just staying behind. And let's have a look at the leader now. The race leader still leads on, and a very strong lead ahead of everyone.
It's 9 seconds between Tyrone and Bailey. So, like we said at the start, get that early gap, run it into the hills, and he's making full leverage of that. Not sure what's happened with Craig, as the timing board seems to have decided that he's taken 2 laps over 1. So we'll see if that can be clarified in a moment here. The turn is coming up and making it 16 laps, but Bailey, say about 9 seconds behind at previous. There we are, being restored now. Just running a manual reset script to resolve the issue.
As the issue gets resolved, let's get back with the top 3 drivers, and we are here with James King. He's on his own pretty much. Nobody in pretty much close range behind him or even ahead of him, but he seems to be in a decent stable P3 position, as he's far a little bit behind Vernon Higgs, but ahead of Bury as well. He seems to be in a very decent position and really chilling out pretty much in no pressure, just a drive that he wants to do. Bury's right behind him, but he's over a few seconds behind, so he's not going to worry about much apart from trying to get back on with Byrne and Higgs. What about Craig Fitton then? He's going to try and defend from the Ferrari of is he going to be doing? And look at that, Bradley Gibbs into the pit.
So here we go, say halfway through the session now, and we'll see what the drivers have in store for us here. So it looks like we're down to 18 drivers, so not sure if that is a case of multiple disconnecting or if we have got another minor server hiccup like we saw previously. There is seeming to be a bit of a problem right now. Some drivers, as you may see from their interesting racing lines and how their cars are rotating, we are experiencing a little bit of a rate issue on the server, and we'll get a confirmation of the cause as we go. But looking like a solid lineup here. We're going to see Bailey now heading in, and we will be seeing a few different changes in the order as a result of these pit stops.
Orders changing, drivers into the pits, and now really could be the time for everybody to pit in, get those tires in, fuel if they need, and get themselves ready. Meanwhile, we see Taron into P14 as well, of course, losing positions as they head into the pits and try and come out. Of course, as pit stops happen, drivers are going to be taking a little bit of time to get closer to each other once again. And look at that, Glenn Bury into the pits as well from P2.
So we've got Fitton in, currently sat at P8, but we have a majority of the field now going in for their stops. You've got King, Lemon, Taron, and Gladwell, just to name a few. So that will be multiple drivers on the field now jumping through. And we will have the few drivers reconnecting that we lost previously. So that was a minor hiccup, but is now resolved.
That's back, and we see Craig Fitton still in P8, really doing his job so far. He was at the back for quite a while, but just with others pitting, it's going to promote his positions. But what about Craig Lever in P14, and just behind our net race leader before that pit stop, which was Tyron. Meanwhile, Tyron's moves up to P3, I believe, or maybe they... Overlay is having its, again, technical issues. We are going to see him, Tyron, with that fastest lap to himself still. And with Craig Lever in P14, he's just going to see Tyron ahead of him.
Well, I'll say a couple of change-ups as a result of the pits, like we were saying before. Fitton is now going to be jumping in, and this is going to mean a few drivers, while yet to take a pit stop, are going to enjoy a bit of time in the sun and a bit of time in the front of the field. Davidson, for example, he's been running a pretty solid race thus far, although has gone a bit wide into that corner and given Matt Farrier an easy second or so on the boards. He's going to enjoy P1, even if provisional, or even if on the basis that he will lose it when he goes into the pit lane, it's still going to be P1, and this is his golden opportunity to put down his best laps and use that clean air.
Absolutely, and you could say lead, but definitely you could use that to your advantage as well. As you said, a clean air is always so important, and the amount of time you lose in that dirty air is what makes you realize how good that free air is. So definitely a good opportunity for him to do as good as he can in that free air and as much for as long as he can. Maybe he might not be back to the top after he pits, but sure, maybe a little bit, a few more positions gained than where he would have been before those pit stops. So a good opportunity. We've got about 21 minutes before the pit window closes, so still quite a while before it really comes to an end. So we must be we are seeing already pit stops action, and it should be happening all in these laps now.
Yeah, solid running here. So Tyrone now out of the pits and actually gained more time on Bailey through the course of the pit stops. So 11.5 seconds between himself and Bailey. And now with 6 seconds between Bailey and David Wrench, who is currently in provisional P3. We are going to see a couple of change-ups. We are also, by the looks of things, having a bit of a problem when it comes to Peter Davidson, so we're waiting to get the confirmation on that, and we will see exactly what is happening there. So Tyrone is going to still technically be holding the lead of the race, albeit behind the others who have yet to stop in. George has yet to stop in, along with Gibbs, Lua, and Palmer down the order. But say Palmer, I think, is going to be running a little bit longer on this stint. Remember, 20 minutes to go on the timing board before the pit window closes. So drivers still have a lot of flexibility, and if they fueled heavy on this opening stint, they can go for a splash and dash right towards the end.
They definitely can, to really do their best and really try and do all they can. And I'm sure maybe, as you said, get a little bit more fuel, really have a heavy car at the start of the race, but have a better one towards the end, a good chance of gaining positions maybe than you would have done it before. And what about Ryan Worley then in P7, I believe that was, and we saw a little bit of a moment out of the pits, or was it in turn one between drivers? I wonder what was that, a little bit of a snap between drivers, or was it a bit of a lag? But we are going to see again Worley in P7 running smooth in that Ferrari so far.
Yeah, so now is going to be that crunch time here. Now, we are getting a couple of reports from drivers as well, having issues of the server. We're just going to see what we can ascertain in terms of information. We have got to confirm Jack Lemmon was booted, as well as Gladwell. Gladwell reportedly didn't have one of his stops counted, so that's going to maybe be an issue that can get raised at a later point. But looks like the server is going to be working as best as it can, but countering a brief moment here and there. We'll try and get the stability on it as soon as possible. But as far as things currently go, Matt Farrier is into the pits. Tyrone is reassuming the lead of the session as James King is now headed in.
James in from P2 is going to try and gain and not lose much time in the pits, but sure, Tyrone back into the lead would be must be a good feeling for him. But what about George then? And he is ahead of Worley. He's just going to be smooth there. Meanwhile, Jack Lemmon, which we saw him fight on earlier, is far away right now between them. So it's an interesting one. George in P7 be ahead of, or in fact, right behind that Mercedes of Bury in P5. That Mercedes AMG, I've been doing a decent job. Different classes, so pretty much, if I'm not wrong, one of the only Mercedes AMG car in the session, but doing a decent enough job and staying inside that top 5. Really putting that car up in that top and really giving it everything. I mean, just doing what it takes and does that car, and doing a pretty good job. What about Zach Wilson in P9 now, just right behind Matt Farrier in P8.
Okay, we're on board with Wilson now, and this is a interesting phase of the race, because by now you've got most of the field having taken their stops or currently taking. There's going to be a big problem right now with the field currently sat in a awkward position. Now, we are going to be just having a couple of reset on audio sources. We're getting reports that we had an issue with game audio, and now that should hopefully be resolved, so apologies to everyone there. I think in the process of resetting some of our internal tools with the server issues from earlier, we weren't able to pick up the game audio again, so apologies for that. Now, we are going to be once again looking at the field as a whole, and I think, say, Tyrone is going to be dominant, Higgs, Wrench, and then Berry and George are going to be in 4th and 5th, although George is likely going to be dropped down to the second half of the grid once the session is going to be stabilizing.
Yeah, the session really having its issues, but still running through it. And one man is trying to get through, and that is Zach Wilson. Maybe try and get through Matt Farrier there. He's going to try and get into P7, but is he going to get his chance, though, in the Aston Martin right behind that BMW? Has he got enough to get through? He's got 2 cars ahead of him, but that one of the Ferrari seems to be a back marker, so he'll need to get out of the way. He's out of the BMW driver's way, but is he going to get out of the Aston Martin driver's way as well? What about him now? Just right on the rear wing of that BMW. Still not enough for a move, a little bit wide from the Aston there, just right behind the BMW, but just still not enough, far away. Definitely turn one hasn't been the overtaking zone, but we'll see what happens when they get around there.
I think Wilson right now is just prioritising keeping his cool, running his own race. He's not going too aggressive on the running for the position so much as it is just keeping within a second of Farrier, and this is perfect. You may think he just wants to get past as soon as he possibly can, but at this point, he just wants to pile on that pressure. He wants to keep him on his toes, make him feel like he cannot make a mistake because Wilson is going to be there no matter what, rain or shine. Nurburgring, Kyalami, anything in between, Kota, you name it. He's going to be there, he's going to be in the rear view, and he's going to be piling on that pressure until he makes that mistake. So that's Wilson's goal right now, I think, and so far, it looks to be paying off. As much as he isn't gaining time, we have seen Farrier have a couple of shakes on that rear axle.
Yeah, really, Farrier, I'm sure, even if we say Wilson's not going for it, Farrier might just be feeling that little pressure, having to look back every now and then, check his mirrors to see how far is Zach Philson away from him, though. But will we see Zach go for it in the turn one? Not quite, though. As you said, he's just keeping his cool, not quite going for it so far. But could he have a chance, though, on the exit? Not quite enough, just staying there, and maybe go for it when it's the end of this race, but almost went for it there. Was it Zach being a little aggressive, or Farrier just stepping to his rear end again and not quite having the exit he could have wanted? And that has even helped Zach Wilson more to help him get closer to that BMW, and a chance of a move gets more and more now for the Aston Martin, and the pressure is on from Wilson. Almost, in fact, he himself goes wide and onto the grass there, but the fight is on.
There is the other element of it, which is the patience of the drivers. Now, I know we said a lot about Wilson biding his time, keeping his cool and piling on that pressure, but every driver has their limits, and before long, he's going to grow tired of just sticking in the wake of the BMW, and he's going to want to push forward. Every driver has their limits, and nobody is going to be waiting in the rearview mirror forever before they eventually decide to go for a move. So I'm curious for what Wilson's limit is, and who is going to crack first. Is Farrier going to crack under the pressure, or is Wilson going to crack under the patience? Let's find out here, as we are both having a bit of an onboard with them as they head into the second and now third sectors, sweeping as far as they can to the edges of the circuit, carry as much speed as they can. Farrier is going to keep it clean while Wilson goes a tiny bit into the grass there, and in fact does flag his lap. Got to be careful because too much on the lap there is going to result in automatic penalties being at risk of being applied.
Yeah, really big risk carrying that, still going forward, and Wilson probably seems to be as close as he's ever been to that BMW. Into turn one they go. Is he going to move to the inside to go for it? He's thought for it for a moment, but still stays to the racing line. Is he going to go for it now? Just doesn't find it enough to get through on the BMW, but well, could be a chance for him, for Wilson. Still not enough, just still stays behind the BMW, and look at that, he's just snapping his steering wheel there in that cockpit, just keeping this car straight and not have many moments in the trying to attack that BMW, just getting closer and closer to it, but not many opportunities to overtake around here apart from that opportunity to turn one, unless you're really side by side against the car and really getting this car as quick as it can go, and really putting that pressure on the car ahead as well, really taking it through. And I'm sure Wilson not only wants to get past around Farrier, but then get closer to the car ahead as well. Definitely wants to get further up the road as far as he can.
Just keep it gripped up, don't push the car too hard. You've got to keep a good balance there or you're going to be left in trouble. Wilson's done really well to make up time here, and he's not going to be letting that one off easy. Even with a tail kick, barely loses more than a tenth. He's got the composure, but he can't lose his cool now. He needs to keep an eye on himself, otherwise he is just going to lend himself to issues. We have got a local yellow on the field. That is going to be from George Palsland. We're going to get a bit of a replay going, and we're going to see exactly what happened. Let's jump on board with the helicopter here. This is going to be him challenging one of the Ferraris. I believe this is the number 30 here. So let's see. They both go into the end of Sector 2. Starting Sector 3, side by side, making their way up into the chicane. And, oh, just contact and into the gravel. Brutal for him there. He is going to recover, but not going to be happy about it.
Absolutely not happy. It was almost like a snap and a elbow out from the other yellow Ferrari to him to really get out of the way. It's my time. Almost it was time for Zach Wilson there. We thought for a moment that he was going to be through. Still just not finding it enough. I mean, we say that patience game, but I feel like Wilson now is kind of trying everything he can against Farrier, just not enough to get through. And what about Tyron? It shows he's in P9. I wonder if he actually is, or it is the overlay showing there, but seems to be the session gone again.
Yeah, we're going to quickly jump over to the other screen once more, get that server reset, because racing is still going on. We just had another technical issue. The server has booted us out, and we'll be right back with you. Welcome back, everyone. We are back trackside, and unfortunate server boot, but we are back on the course now. So quickly, wasting no time, getting straight back to the action. Wilson is going to continue his charge on the back of that Farrier here, and we will see some of the positions stabilize as the telemetry gets reset, new values get posted through, and things quickly resolve. But Wilson, despite all the chaos around him, in the timing board at least, refuses to let go and is going to continue to be a thorn in Farrier's side. Now making their way on to lap 23 and keeping their composure all the way down as the situation is going to become more and more time sensitive. 13 minutes remain, 8 minutes left if you want to go for a pit stop, and anyone else who has yet to stop is going to be left out high and dry. But let's see what the drivers make of this one, as we aren't coming to the final 15 minutes. This is where the crucial decision has got to be made. Are you going to commit to your position as you currently have it, or are you going to be going for that last chance, that last shot? Take Jack Lemon, for example. He's currently sat in P18. 20 drivers remain on the field, and he's on the back of Dingo. Now, Dingo, we've seen him have some pace in the earlier stages of this race and in the qualifying, but we have also got a situation where he's on the defensive and he's not doing so hot. So Lemon could have a chance at capitalizing here and going for a last-minute move before the session ends.
Yeah, he could really be going forward. That we saw him have that incident, so definitely that throws him almost at the back of the grid, but still, definitely that fun doesn't stop. But what about the fun for Ryan there? He went very wide, touching up that gravel, and definitely these moments in the ending parts of the race you definitely don't want to have, especially from a position like P7. A mistake could ruin your whole progress and hard work that you've done throughout. And what about the hard work of Mr. Wilson? He's still yet to get past Matt Farrier. Matt Farrier, I mean, let's say he's doing a pretty decent job, and I'm sure that now the patience game for Wilson might just be over, and he could be trying his best to get past Matt Farrier, but Farrier really doing his all to defend on this one and really keeping it just ahead of Wilson.
Wilson is going to remain resolute though, and despite the continual challenge, is remaining within half of a second. So he's certainly done an immaculate job and remained consistent throughout the entire session. This is going to be Connor Palmer, the number 73 car, into the pit lane, and is going to be, I believe, one of the last runners to go into the pits, as most of the field, if not the entire set, has now gone in for their mandatory stop. We are seeing a couple of local yellows coming out for a few drivers, and we will continue to monitor. But we have a couple of incidents that we saw earlier. Unfortunately, we lost the replay data for that, but we will keep an eye and remain vigilant as the session comes to its close in about 10 minutes' time.
Just about 10 minutes remaining, and this is these final moments. Drivers need to make most of it, because you could be saying that, okay, in the case of Wilson, that it is 10 minutes remaining, you know, you're going to take it smooth and safe, but they are going to come to an end very early and very soon before they could think about it. So either it's time now for them either to go for the move, or either just say that they are going to still stay there. A little bit of a tail wagging again once for them on the exit. What about Fitton then in P14? Still ahead of many drivers so far, with over 20 in the session, just taking it on his own. What about Davidson coming to a complete stop here? Was that a mistake there from them?
Yeah, classic mistake there. So just cooking it too much on the final corner, trying to push out and getting caught in the gravel. But you saw there, he waited. He was making sure that the track was safe to rejoin. So again, good sportsmanship. Kudos to him. He's keeping things nice and clean. Lemon is going to go for the attack on Dingo now. They're going to go side by side throughout the first sector here, through turns 2 and 3. It's going to have a nice composure to him as he holds on to that inner line and is going to hold the apexes of the corners as we go through. Dingo himself is under a little bit of pressure, as that is going to be the BMW just poking the nose in and potentially pressuring him for a challenge. Although I do believe that is one of the other BMWs who is on a separate lap. We're just going to wait and get the confirm. That is, in fact, George, who is currently in P5.
Yeah, George really taking it out smooth out there. Still, his fight we saw earlier for P5 is now really coming to close, and he's now out there into 15th place and right behind Dingo on track. So he definitely wants Dingo to get out of the way to for George to get closer to Bury as close as he can. But I don't think that he would be really thinking about that. With only 8.5 minutes remaining, he pretty much would be thinking to keep safe his 5th place to himself and really bring the car home.
So he's just got to bring it home at this point, and I think that's where the driver's priorities need to shift. You've got 10 minutes left, less than, in fact, so you don't want to do anything that's too risky. You're going to leave yourself open, and you're going to land yourself in trouble if you cook it too hard. So focus on bringing it home. Yes, go for the attacks. They're necessary, but don't be overzealous. We see right there Dingo losing a bit of time, going on the outside and into the grass with the chicane. Now, he's got George behind him, but they're not in the same race, so you can't let that affect your driving. And in fact, George is going to have right of way with the blue.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like blue might have came out a little bit later, because we saw for quite a while Dingo was ahead of George and not quite getting out of the way. But sure, understandably that it was not enough space for him to let through to without ruining his own race. So he just let him through on that main straight with those yellows coming out, and George again now should be flying into free air on his own.
So this is going to be a bit of a chance for him to just make up time. He's not necessarily going to be able to make up positions at this stage of the race. He's not got enough time, and he's not got the proximity. He's 18 seconds away from Glyn, according to the reads we have. But he can just focus on confirming his position. He doesn't want to, again, overdrive the car, like we were saying, but Ryan Worley is going to be less than 5 seconds away. So some good running here will set him very nicely for him to keep that spot.
Absolutely, he really wants it so far to himself, and those cars ahead as well. Worley in P6, I mean, wouldn't attack as well, just keeping it to himself, as you said. Just every driver, I mean, as you said, it's time for them to really keep it where they are. Let's have a look at Rum. I mean, he's into P11. I just had that into his timing screen, saying that how he was down at the start of it, just coming back. So quite a few drivers coming back from the bottom of the grid after that chaotic start, and Gibbs into P9 as well, having a look at some of those drivers who were quite involved in those incidents, but just making their way back to the top and really taking their road to recovery quite smooth.
Yeah, and that is going to be the story for a lot of drivers. It is the road to recovery. Unfortunately, particularly at the start of the race, you had some drivers that, let's say, were dealt a bad hand, to put it in the best way that we can. So their road to recovery is certainly going to be a tough one, but that's just what it's got to take. It's going to be that slow cruise into a bit of a better position, and then you find yourself in a pocket of the race where you can afford to take things a little bit more safely and just bring the car home. We see Davidson going for an attack and successfully overtaking Dingo here, but the pit window is coming to a close. Final call for the pit lane. I think everyone has taken their stop at this stage, and now is going to be the final dash to the very end.
Very, very ending times now, with Dingo in P16 just right behind Davidson. Dingo, David, both in those McLarens. One is white and one has got a beautiful livery to look at to see what we can, but they definitely need some beauty of lap times to get ahead. But what about Lee behind them? Or is it another driver we saw? I believe that's the same Lee, or in fact Lee, that's a different one. That was a lapped car. Meanwhile, Lee is in the BMW in P17, quite down the order. So there are drivers now running quite closer of one another, even the lapped cars and those ones who are in a race of one another. What about these two here then? Lee and I believe that is Fitton, but they shouldn't be in their own race as well. What about Jack Lehman? Another problem and another mistake pretty much looks like on his own. Nobody seems to be closer on him. So another white going, and that pretty much is race over for him, down to P16, Jack Lehman.
Unfortunate for him there. He isn't really going to get a chance to get any recourse on this one. But we are noticing, as we come to the final 5 minutes, everyone, whether they were listening or not, has somewhat heeded our advice from earlier. They've found their own pockets of the racetrack, and they're not really closing in on one another. Take Wrench, for example. He's held his own and is currently sat in P3. Now, he's got masses of time either side. Glynn is 24 seconds away, and Wrench is about 4 seconds from Vernon Higgs. He's going to have a bit of a chance to go for an attack, but he's not really going to, because Vernon is in a similar situation to him, where he just wants to bring this home, and he's got about 3 laps left on the clock before he does so. Tyrone is going to be leading and is going to be, short of any incidents, looking like a firm winner here, a potential winner to call as he goes round the final corner and into lap 29 here.
Absolutely, Tyrone, kind of a domination. Nobody able to get closer to him, and also other drivers as well, really keeping it where they are. I mean, kind of knowing that the gaps are quite a lot, so they wouldn't be able to make it out anyways, even if they try and attack. So it's all about just keep what we have and not ruin our chances. Meanwhile, Tyrone, the man on your screen, is really been doing a very amazing job. He hasn't let anybody get closer to him to that P1 at all. And is that another mistake from Jack Lehman?
I think it's a little bit wide. Not as catastrophic as previous, but still, I think that slippery slope is happening here. Mistake happens again and again, and it very quickly snowballs. It's often tough to judge the mental state of a driver, but one thing that can be a bit of a tell is when you have a driver who has a bit of a hiccup on track, be that going off the course or just having a bit of an altercation with another driver, and in the process of trying to recover, pushes too hard and makes more mistakes, and that very frequently can get out of control. That can drop you back down serious time and positions, and we'll see some other drivers try and take advantage of that, see that they're struggling under pressure and be able to capitalize. We can see that is going to be Dingo there, is just off the course. I think similar story to many others, just a bit of lift off oversteer and loses the back of the car going into the final corner and out again. You've got Ethan Lee as well, who is currently chasing down on Lemon and looking to get his P15 for himself.
Really, Lee really not backing out at all into P15. Earlier we saw him, he was in P17, so definitely that position on Dingo has helped, along with being close to Lehman now, really trying to attack. Definitely Lehman all along, if he wasn't in any pressure earlier with the car not holding up to him and going wide and having issues again. He's got Lee right behind him to get closer, but look at that, he seems to be actually gaining a bit on him. What about Luke Klend in that Ferrari as well, in P10 right behind Gibbs then, but Gibbs still staying in P10, P9, and he seems to be actually being further away from Luke there. Luke in P10 just coming around the final corner now with just 50 seconds remaining in this race, and drivers just moving towards their final laps of this race. It just gets to the end. Meanwhile, Glenn does a bit better lap than he did on the previous one, but pretty much now it is all about these drivers are going to be where they are, unless they make a big mistake allowing others through. But this pretty much is going to be the timing sheet we are going to see towards the end of this race.
Now we're going to have a little bit of a final dash here. 20 seconds remain on the clock. Leader is confirmed to be on the final lap of the race here. So now it's going to be a real squeeze to make it happen. And anyone who wants to go for those attacks and go for those final move, speak now or forever hold your position. We've got Ethan Lee on the back of Jack Lemon. He's going to go for it and potentially squeeze him into the first corner. Timer has fully elapsed, which means that Tyrone crossing the line is going to be the final time. And now is going to be a race against the clock as well as against the track. Will he go for the move here into turn one? Question is, will he commit? We can see that's Lemon going on the defensive a little bit later on the brakes, and a bit of a squeeze to the outside there, as he's not going to let him take that one so easy. Will there be any recourse through those next couple of corners? Not quite, but clocking out for a second from these two, there is one driver who has stood head and shoulders above it all. Tyrone comes through the final corner and is going to take top honours, crossing the line. The number 69 Bentley takes the checkered flag and the win of the first round of the UKAF Championship. Not too far behind, and coming into the final corner now, Bailey Vernon Higgs, a strong competitor and strong second, following through at the same time. So great racing from himself as well, closely followed by David Wrench in third position. Well, a few more drivers now making their way. This is going to be Clearland having a bit of an issue on the chicane, so bumping himself over the curbs. Come on, mate, get yourself back on track. Time is of the essence. There's going to be rum very soon. The driver coming to the fore and going to be putting on some serious pressure, but here goes Clearland around the final corner now, and is going to hold on to his spot as other drivers around the field conclude their race. So King is down in P20 and confirmed. Clearland is going to be confirming his P10 with Glenberry just behind. You saw him there closing up and having a solid finish in P4.
Drivers really getting to the end and now concluding this race. Meanwhile, we see not 1, 2, but 3 drivers taking that checkered flag to the end. What about Ryan Worley then, just coming around the corner now, that final line now as well, into P6. He takes it along with George in P5, and just to the finish line. They almost finish side by side, do Lee and Lehman. Lee just not able to get through on Lehman, and Lehman holds on to P15.
Quality result from everyone, but we're going to take a quick run through the order as everyone files through. The smoke comes out at the end of the course, and you can see it now becomes a case of trying to avoid your fellow cars just as much as it is about finishing the race. You see a couple of drivers who were coming in hot and having to dodge the other cars while they're trying to slow down. But there you go, folks. That is time, and you can see some well-earned celebrations, if nothing else, for making it to the end of the first race of the calendar. So, in full order, let's take it from the top. It's Tyrone, Vernon Higgs, Wrench, Glynn, Berry, and then George BL in 5th. Ryan Worley is going to be in your 6th place with Farrier, Wilson, Gibbs, and Clearland completing your top 10. Heading off to the next set, it's going to be Alex Rum, Craig Lua, and looks like the server has quickly reset, so we weren't able to catch everyone's positions there, unfortunately. But you saw it on the screen, and that's where we are going to jump out from things, folks. Wow. What an opener! I mean, we did have technical gremlins, of course, and want to thank everyone watching at home for your patience while we were trying to resolve some of those technical issues in the background. The patience was absolutely appreciated. But, Tabby, what an opener there. What are your thoughts coming out of that one?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, looking at some of these GC3 and all these GT cars race, I have to say that I haven't seen this much close racing, and especially for the whole grid to go. You know, it wasn't like 1 or 2 drivers. It was almost every other driver having their own 2-car battle and really going at it.
It really were giving it 110%, and what a strong initial statement from so many of the drivers on the field. Of course, like we said before, this is just the start of the season, folks. We are going to be heading ourselves all around the world as part of this 12-race championship. We also wanted to thank you on a personal level. This is one of our first major broadcasts here for the agency at DriveLine Media. Wanted to thank the Armed Forces, the RAF, for playing host and being an amazing opportunity. Certainly looking forward to running more of these races in the future and making the broadcast better and better as we go. We've already got some ideas, we've already got a few neat tricks up our sleeve that we wanted to do to make these broadcasts better for you watching at home. But I have to say, after that opener, I'm very excited for the season to come. I'm really excited. I can barely contain it, but it's going to be a very fun season ahead.
It definitely will be, and I'm sure to get us a race like this on the season opener, definitely we have to expect what the remaining 11 rounds ahead of us hold, and so many amazing drivers doing their best. So we know if one of them wasn't able to do here, they could do it later on. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, we can't leave you completely in the dark. We, of course, should talk about what track is coming next. And our next track is going to be none other than the absolutely lovely. It is going to be Watkins Glen. Now, in particular, the bus stop chicane and that second sector produces a lot of high intensity moments. You've got a few overtakes that will be headed into turn 1, as well as that fast sweeping first sector into the bus stop we mentioned at the beginning. But you want to be there for it, and you want to be joining us at the same time next week, as we are going to be at a very interesting point with this championship already starting off strong. But thank you all for joining us, folks. It has been a pleasure and an honor. We will see you this time next week. From myself and from Zabby, thank you for watching, and goodbye.